When you think of events big enough to be capable of filling a stadium like this, what do you think of? Professional sports, rock concerts, or even the Olympic Games? Could the message of one man ever be dynamic enough to draw crowds the size of the World Series or the Super Bowl? Could one messenger of hope draw capacity crowds into facilities meant mainly for entertainment, just to hear a message of faith, night after night, year after year, decade after decade?
Yes, sir. Take me to the cross. I can find my way home from there.
He came out of nowhere. He was not born into a prominent family or thrust onto the universal stage like a political leader. He simply took his God-given talent and passion and proclaimed a message that inspired people all over the world. When huge, high-dollar events couldn't fill a stadium like this, you could always rely on the message of one man to provide a standing room-only crowd: Billy Graham.
He conquered the grave, and because he lives, we can not only face tomorrow, but because he lives, I know that I shall not endure 1 minute in hell. I know that I'll never come under the judgment of God, even though I deserve it.
Before he had any idea what his future might be, or any awareness that he might have a special mission, Billy Graham was living a typical farm boy's life in a small southern town. William Franklin Graham Jr. had roots that ran deep into the North Carolina soil. Both his grandfathers were veterans of the Civil War. His paternal grandfather purchased the land on which he grew up after that war, and farming became the way of life for several generations of Grahams. Billy was the first of 4 children that would be born to Frank and Morrow Graham, and reared in the tranquil setting of the sprawling pastures and low hills of the family's dairy farm.
My brother, who is 5.5 years older than I, never took to farming. He worked only because my daddy required him to.
By all appearances, Billy Graham was just like any other boy his age, but there was something about Graham that separated him from the rest of his peers. He had a gift that even he did not recognize. In those days, Charlotte, North Carolina had a reputation for being a leading church-going city, with itinerant evangelists traveling there to preach. A wooden structure had been erected on property at the edge of town for popular evangelists like Billy Sunday and Mordecai Ham to hold meetings for weeks at a time. When Mordecai Ham came to Charlotte, Graham was reluctant to attend. It wasn't until good friend Albert McMakin invited him and his friends, brothers Grady and T.W. Wilson, to go to hear Ham that Billy showed any interest in the revival. Graham was especially moved by Ham's description of sin and rebellion and felt that Ham was pointing right at him. Graham couldn't escape the conviction, so at the invitation he went forward and accepted Christ. Grady Wilson also went forward, and their lives were then forever intertwined.